The mindset of a seven-figure entrepreneur. Most people stay poor for two reasons. 1. They haven't followed a strategy that makes them rich. 2. They don't have the mindset of a wealthy person. I plan to help you with the first point. I believe the two most important steps to wealth are to build a business and invest the profits. This book will help with the build a business part. However, it's up to you to reframe your mindset. The minute you reframe it, own it, and use it as leverage, you have a shot at success. Remember when I said entrepreneurs are unique? That we see the world differently than other people? I'll go even further with that assessment. Most entrepreneurs have chips on their shoulders. We are eager to prove others wrong. That is why we willingly take on so much stress and risk, betting our money and livelihoods on educated guesses. You might be excited by that idea because becoming an entrepreneur is particularly trendy right now. It's cool to chase your dreams and find wealth and freedom on the other side. A lot of people get into this line of work because they think it means an easy path to millions. Becoming an entrepreneur often really means 12-hour days, a lot of red in your bank account, and long nights working alone. It means weathering storm after storm without an end in sight and no one on earth backing you up. And no one, I repeat, no one, will understand, except, of course, other entrepreneurs. Entrepreneurs tend to be very lonely people, and lonely people often make very good entrepreneurs. We share a particular psychology, and that psychology is weird. Over the years of being an entrepreneur myself, and working with hundreds of entrepreneurs, I've noticed some downright identical patterns in mindset and behavior that can literally predict success or failure. In sharing our personal stories, I've also noticed that a huge number of us share specific life experiences and have carried the incumbent baggage of those experiences into adulthood. I'd never claim that every entrepreneur thinks and acts the same, but there are distinct patterns that play a significant role in how we operate. This isn't a bad thing. In fact, it's usually the secret sauce that leads us to higher levels of financial and creative success than the majority of the population. Without an awareness of what you're working with, and therefore the ability to guide and harness your mindset to propel you forward, you run the risk that your psyche will hold you back. Any person who truly wants to make a go at a successful million-dollar business needs to do this work on themselves first, before they step into building a brand. Looking back to move forward, when I was 11 years old, my parents separated. I know a lot of kids go through stuff like that, but I took it especially hard. I was a late bloomer, and I already felt out of place at my new middle school. I changed schools, wore oversized hand-me-downs every day, and found solace in computers, where I learned to type 100 words a minute and build websites. My mom went back to work. My dad left the house and went off to rebuild his life. And me? I would come home from school to an empty house. There I was, my body changing, my world fractured, and I felt alone. That's a lot to figure out with no leadership and no strong role models. By the way, shout out to my mom, and all single parents. I never realized as a kid how much her world was shattered at the time. She had been a mom her whole adult life, and now she had to figure out her own life, make money, and give up her dreams. She worked so hard to take care of us. I could not appreciate how hard it was for her until now. Searching for male leadership and direction, I clung to male friends and sought out mentors. There were a few men at church who supported and encouraged me, and I dove deep into my church youth group. During that time, I had a friend I really relied on. At a time when I truly needed to belong, he introduced me to the cool kids, and made me feel like I fit in. I ate lunch with them every day. He helped me make new friends and even got me into some after-school activities. I admired him and followed him around for a year and a half. I dressed like him. I modeled him. I watched TV shows and read books based on his recommendations. I told jokes that I knew would make him laugh. He was kind, welcoming, and unassuming, and I was so thankful for him. During a time in my life when I felt like I'd been abandoned, he was a steady support. Until one day, when he looked up at me and said, "I find you really annoying. I'm only friends with you because I feel sorry for you." What? He also told me that my other friends talked about me behind my back, and that I was never really part of their group. I remember everything about the moment. I remember the look in his eye and the careless and awkward laugh he let out after he told me all this. I even remember the black long-sleeved shirt I was wearing. I cried when I went home that day, and I can't recall a time that I have ever felt more alone, or more like a loser. I never went back to the lunch table with those kids. I skipped lunch and hid in the computer lab every day for the rest of the year. For the next 4 years, I avoided my former friend, as though he'd physically injured me. I was afraid to even make eye contact with him. During our senior year, I got second place for most likely to succeed. I lost to him. I hated that he beat me. Toward the end of that year, he and I were in a small, after-school group together. After 4 years of carrying around hurt, insecurity, and fear, I worked up the courage to confront him. We were alone in a classroom, and it was awkwardly quiet. I cleared my throat and said, "Hey, can we talk about that day in 8th grade when we stopped being friends?" He looked at me funny. "Huh? You know. The day you said you didn't really like me and just felt sorry for me." "I never said that," he said. I felt like I'd been slapped. I remembered it so vividly. "Yes, you did. I've thought about it every day since then." He said again, "No, I don't remember that. Sorry." It took everything I had not to scream at him, punch him, or both. "What do you mean, you don't remember?" I literally hid in the computer lab every day after that. He shrugged. I was completely shocked and a little speechless, but I managed one more question. "We haven't talked in 4 years. We were friends, dude. Haven't you wondered why I disappeared from your life?" He shrugged again. I don't know. I hadn't thought about it. "I'm sorry." And that was that. He claimed no recollection of the incident. To be fair, we were just kids when he said that to me, and when I confronted him, he was 18 and his life was pretty well set in order. He was a school award winner and headed to a prestigious university in the fall. He had moved on, but I played that conversation over and over in my head for years. There are 2 reasons I wanted to tell you this story. First, every time I share it with another entrepreneur, they nod in recognition. Most entrepreneurs have felt alone at some point in their lives. They all have their own version of my story. A huge number of them are children of divorce, too. A common thread of abandonment, marginalization, and feeling dismissed and devalued seems to run through our experiences. If you're seeing some shade of yourself in my story, I want you to understand you're not alone. The second reason is actually far more important. If it weren't for that kid, I wouldn't be a millionaire today. You see, I hid in the computer lab every day because of him. And in that computer lab, I learned to build websites. I learned how to drive traffic. I learned how to write. If it weren't for him, you wouldn't be reading this book. If it weren't for him, you wouldn't go on to build the business that's going to set you free. My point isn't to preach some platitude about how everything happens for a reason. My point is that there are things in your life that have happened that weren't fair, and while you can't change that they happened, you can turn them into the fuel that will drive you to succeed. Those painful moments are the ones in which you either flee or take a stand and decide to make a change. Taking ownership, maybe it's coincidence. Maybe it's a pattern. Maybe it's universal. But every entrepreneur I've met relates to this story, or relates at least to the idea of feeling alone. Suddenly, with no warning or expectation, they had to make all the decisions and live with the consequences. At some point in their lives, they said to themselves, "No one is going to take care of me, so I will take care of myself." That kind of pressure is a baptism of sorts, and I believe this is where the entrepreneur mindset begins. An entrepreneur is someone who takes responsibility for a problem and does something about it. Sometimes, that problem is that you are broke and don't want to be broke anymore. Sometimes, that problem is that your life sucks and you're finally ready to do something about it. Or your kids have no future, and it's time that you stepped up to the plate, stopped blaming other people or forces, and changed things for the better. An entrepreneur solves problems that someone else created. An entrepreneur takes responsibility in order to create change. I consider every challenge, every painful moment, and everything that I have had to overcome to be a necessary part of the journey. It's an empowering thing when you realize that no one is coming to save you. No one is going to put your life together for you. No one else is going to make you $1 million. Some people are held back by a belief that money is scarce and hard to come by. These people allow that belief to form their worldview, which in turn triggers their actions. If you believe money is scarce and hard to come by, you sure as hell won't take the risk of quitting a crappy job to go after a more lucrative but less certain future. You'll take the safe route. Other people are held back by the belief that making money is selfish, and that rich people are bad. These people could never become entrepreneurs because the very objective driving a business forward, profit, baby, is something they can't stomach. They've likely been made to feel bad about it at some point in their lives. They might even project that onto other people and try to make them feel bad about making money. I could give my plan to one person who uses it to build a multi-million-dollar business. I could give the same plan to a different person and have them call me a scam artist. Your world is what you believe it is if you choose to take ownership for your worldview and your results. Quick note: when I talk about doing the work on yourself, I don't mean just reading this chapter. This is my call to awareness, nothing more. Sit with this, think about it, and take the time to honestly evaluate your mindset. If that honest self-evaluation brings up any self-doubt or the fear of failure, there is a podcast episode I want you to listen to. It's not about business, it's about slaying these demons. It's called, You Are Enough, and you will find it at capitalism.com, best. Take care of yourself first. One of my rules of entrepreneurship is to take care of yourself first. I learned this one the hard way by repeatedly working myself into the ground. You are the driver of your business, and businesses reflect their leaders. Your habits, your culture, and your morals all permeate the business and products you create. You must take care of yourself physically and mentally so that you can create and serve others. The most profitable thing you can do is look after the driver, yourself. Entrepreneurship can create stress, and stress breeds bad decisions. You can't force good ideas. That's why my friend Peter Shallard, the self-titled Shrink for Entrepreneurs, says the primary goal of an entrepreneur is to stay in the mode where work is easy. Eat healthy, get exercise, and take the breaks you need. Taking care of yourself also means taking care of other stakeholders, your customers, your employees, and your investors, and being mindful of your ads and how you interact on social media. The ends don't necessarily justify the means, either. If you're unhappy with the process, you are likely to be unhappy with the results. When I've worked on ideas in the past, and they haven't been enjoyable throughout, I've never liked the end product. While you should definitely prepare for hard work, you shouldn't have to suffer through misery for an idea. Here's the difference: if you are working to prove something or to overcome your mental blocks, then you will run into stress, burnout, frustration, and failure. I call it scaling unhappiness. However, if you are creating from a place of abundance and genuinely serving others in the process, then life and business is deliriously enjoyable. When I've been my most successful, I can trace it back to how much I enjoyed the journey. When Matt and I worked on Sheer Strength, we were driven by our passion for the products and the idea of making something we both wanted to buy. Every time we stopped ourselves and listened to the market or new trends, we hit a roadblock. Those bad decisions cost us time and money. Right now, I'm working on a new food company. The project is a blast, and it's either going to be the most successful thing I've ever done, or the best time I'll ever have on a failure. Either way, the project is enjoyable, and that's a worthy goal. Make sure you're enjoying the ride you're on, or I can guarantee you'll burn out. The pursuit is worth it. Elon Musk is lonely. He has been public about this. When you're running 3 companies that are changing the world, you don't have much time for a girlfriend, a social life, or for pretty much anything else. To be perfectly frank, I don't know a lot of balanced entrepreneurs. The happy person with the perfect work-life balance doesn't usually become a rockstar entrepreneur. This game requires you to carry the load on your shoulders and press on in the face of fear. Whether it's your first business or your 100th, you're going to ask yourself the same questions at some point. Is this going to fall apart? Am I going to be found out as a fraud? Did one of my competitors already come up with a better version of this? That little voice breaks most people. True-born entrepreneurs move through it because they've been working through fear their whole lives. I'm not going to claim that I've never wondered if this is all worth it. In fact, I've spent countless nights wondering if I would be happier if I just had smaller goals. I have family members who encourage me to take extended time off, and every time I do, I feel like the free agent who can't wait to get back into the game. However, there was one time following the sale of Sheer Strength when I felt particularly depressed about the game of entrepreneurship. I'd made that $10 million payday, but I didn't feel any happier. Around that time, I just happened to find myself at dinner with entrepreneur and author Tim Ferriss. He had recently moved to Austin, Texas, and a friend of mine invited me to dinner with him and Tim. We talked about everything from religion, to business, to relationships, but I had one burning question that I wanted to ask. Tim, there's one thing that I have to know. You're at the level of success I want to reach. Do you still have days where you wonder if it's all worth it? He laughed out loud. Dude, my family hears me talk about this all the time. Then his face changed. He immediately switched to serious Tim mode. If you've ever watched his videos, you'll know that he has a very distinct, serious Tim face. This was that face. He looked at me dead in the eye and said, "Ryan, here's what I've discovered. There are plenty of things not worth pursuing. But that doesn't mean that it isn't worth doing. You see, even if the thing isn't worth it, the pursuit is." That sums up entrepreneurship for me. It's not about the money. It is who you become through the pursuit that ultimately makes this all worth it. You can start this journey on the side, but as soon as you see liftoff, meaning your business is consistently getting sales, that's the time to buckle up and go all in. And it will happen faster than you realize. It's usually 4 to 6 months from the start of the business. That's when you are going to dive in headfirst and passionately work 12-hour days. That will be the norm, but it will be exciting as hell. If you're working a full-time job, that means that your nights and weekends will be full for the next year. Your pursuit starts with the decision to go all in. It starts with the decision to accept that it is a long journey, and decide to do it anyway. You've likely heard the phrase, "freedom isn't free." We use that phrase to honor the fallen heroes who fought for American freedom, as we should. However, we seem to forget that our own freedom isn't free. We have to work really hard for it. As an entrepreneur, you've chosen this life because you want freedom. And if you want a unique life, you will have to sacrifice for it. This journey is going to create challenges. You'll learn new things about yourself, more than you ever thought there was to learn. You're about to open Pandora's box. In fact, if you think you know yourself right now, check back in 6 months down the road and marvel at the layers in your soul that you've uncovered. Let's roll. Okay. Here we go. I've given you the context you need to understand what you're getting into, how to become successful at it, and how your life will change. I've shown you what the opportunity looks like and just how many chances you'll have to make a huge impact. I've shown you why what you're about to build is massively in demand, and why people out there are relying on you to build a $1 million brand. Hopefully I've raised your awareness and made you think hard about the beliefs and mindset you're bringing to the table and the work you need to do on yourself first to ensure this journey won't see you crash and burn. There's nothing left to do but show you the method. In the next several chapters, you'll learn the exact steps, in the exact order, that you need to follow to build a 7-figure business in 1 year. In each chapter, you'll see how the step looks in practice through real-world stories from myself, my students, and big brands you'll recognize. Do not skip steps. Do not rush to get started before you finish reading. Read carefully and thoroughly, and, if you have questions, seek out the capitalism.com community online. There's a whole legion of entrepreneurs just like you out there waiting to share their experiences and answer your questions. The relationships that you build during this process will likely become some of the most important relationships of your entire life, so reach out early and start bringing together your tribe. Most of all, enjoy the journey. Yup, I'm done trying to scare you away. This is going to be fun.